Oh, it's great. A merlin just dove on a big flock of redpolls. Great. Looks like if we weren't up and running before, we are now. 1,040 redpolls now since stream has begun. 1040. Eagle still heading away. See what more we can get. Good morning so far. A lot of things heading through. Just joining, welcome to the north shore of Lake Superior. We're right on the edge of it here. So hanging out right here at the edge, just hiding a little bit behind some of these trees for a bit of cover. It's a bit windy, but looking here for migrating winter finches that are heading south along the north shore of Lake Superior. So they're all basically leaving the boreal forest and south, and hopefully turning up in backyards around the country. You can see it's actually getting quite windy. Bumping around a little bit. Move the setup. Take cover behind a tree. See if this helps at all. Hopefully some more of these redpoll flocks will be going by. Over 2,000 now for the morning. Decent number of white-winged crossbills. Merlin came in, attacked a bunch of redpolls. This low bald eagle fly over. Some stuff happening. No pine grosbeak so far today, which is interesting because there's been dozens every day for the last 4 days, I think it is now. Hopefully they keep coming. There are 30 redpolls. It's interesting, in watching redpolls here for the last week or so, that it's been interesting to notice how bursty. Chickadee just flew through frame there. The movement of redpolls is like really bursty throughout the morning, where you'll get like 5-10 minutes, something like that, where there will be almost none basically going through. Trickle maybe, flocks of 10s and 20s, and then you'll get this big burst of a bunch of flocks in quick succession. And that's usually when the big flocks are, the 100, 200 bird flocks. And it's just an interesting behavior. It doesn't seem to be quite that way with other finches, like purple finches or siskins. Seems like when they're moving, they're just moving and kind of streaming through. But redpolls seem to have some different kind of flocking mechanism. Don't know if it's kind of birds on the ground that are taking notice of flocks flying overhead and are joining them, so they're kind of clumping together, just because of the way that they're aggregating, or if it's something else. Not really sure, but it's definitely been very distinct from the other finch flights that have been going on here this fall. Unfortunately, it looks like a bunch of the finch movements have moved behind us. So there's kind of two different flight lines here. There's one that is inland, like right on the edge of the mainland, and then kind of on a little point of land here. And then there's things that are moving right along the point as well. There are two different strategies, but hopefully get another burst of things going on. Yo, good. Things are good. Yeah, I'm live. There was a bunch of things moving by a little while ago, but I'm pretty sure the connection was failing. Had like multiple multi-hundred redpoll flocks like between here and the spruces, and like an eagle go overhead and a merlin dive on them, and I'm not sure if it went through. So, and then of course now it's definitely working and no redpolls have come by.
What?
Now it's definitely working and no redpolls have come by. So, oh well. No pine grosbeaks yet today. Fair number of white wings. That's about it. But we shall see. Morning holds. About 2,000 redpolls already.
What's that?
About 2,000 already.
2,000 redpolls?
Yeah. I have a number on my checklist, and then had 1,070 since turning this on.
Let's go inland where it's not so loud.
Yeah, it's super loud here.
Yeah.
Looks like the flight line might have moved to the Altef one as well. Just there's another birder that swings by here a fair amount. Just came by in the lay of the land. But he's probably wisely going to check another place. It's just a little bit quieter. So often much better for detecting finches early, since they're calling so often. That's a lot of the time how you're picking up the flocks. Right now, as you can probably hear, hopefully it's not too bad, with the wind direction, the surf noise from Lake Superior is really blowing up. It makes it hard to hear. Harder, at least. Some ravens migrating by as well. Three ravens. That's one of the cool things here along the shore as well. Just there's a lot of movement of corvids, ravens and crows, that are just moving right along the shore, and something you don't detect too often if you're just birding in a place where there's always crows or ravens. But here you can really see them moving along the shore of the lake, and get hundreds and hundreds of crows and dozens of ravens in a good day. And gulls moving through. Herring gulls. Nice flock coming through right behind the right side of the pines right now. Nice big redpoll flock. Some white-winged crossbills calling in there too. About 20 white-winged crossbills and 90 more redpolls. What puts us at? There was a big flock of 150 inland a little while ago. More, so we're at 1280. It's another nice low redpoll flock just going over the sun. I'm going to come right close here. Nice shot of those. That was actually about half the flock. The other half passed overhead behind. 90 in that one in total. 1370. Oh, another flock whipping through. Yeah, so here, that bursty thing I was talking about before, you can see there was like that 4 or 5 minute period where we had basically no birds coming through. And then now, what's that? 40 more. Keep losing the number. Need someone in chat to help me out. Flock of waxwings. 12 waxwings. All cedars. There's been an interesting movement of cedars. In November here, you'd expect it to be more bohemians, or mostly bohemians, but we've only been having a handful of those. The redpoll flock coming in just over the sun. They come pretty close here. Turn the pines, come behind the top of the spruces. Small one, 20. 1420 in total so far. Plus again the almost 1,000 from before stream began. There's a rough-legged hawk migrating by as well. It's unfortunately too far for this phone setup. but hoping to figure out a way. It seems like there's kind of two main things that be key to figure out to have a really robust kind of birding stream. One being the kind of point of view we're looking at now, and then the second being a way to look through optics, really, and kind of have that really focused way of checking things out. And working on that. I have a few ideas of ways to hook up optics. Comes a finch flock, redpolls, 30 more. So, for now, I'm getting the flock view, which works pretty well for these big redpoll flocks, but I'd love to be able to zoom in more, and hoping to have some of that sometime soon. Oh, missed that. You probably had that flock go right overhead. I was scanning inland. So there's about 30 of them. Flock going through the sun right now. 50. Oh, nice. Just came over the right side of the pines. That might have been in frame for you. It's 16:30 now with the inland group as well. This could be a good one. The biggest day this week was 2 days ago. About 7,000 redpolls, but it seems like clouds, even just this little bit of clouds we're looking at right now, seems to make a big difference on the clear blue skies. There don't seem to be as much of as big of a flight, as many birds moving, and it ends a lot earlier in the day as well. So it'll often kind of taper out by 9 even, or 10, which is not long. And there's a nice flock coming right from the pines. 40 more. 1660. Yeah, it's not long when sunrise is right about 8. So flying for only about an hour of daylight some days. But on the cloudy day, so 2 days ago with the 7,000 birds, it was kind of solid overcast, and that flight continued throughout early afternoon, which is pretty cool. Might be able to hear this flock going over behind. Soft little notes. 40 more there. There's a flock of 20 as well. 1720. Just keep coming. Another eagle moving as well. This could be a good raptor day. It's been a few days since raptor. Yep, some redpolls going through the sun right now. Small group, 30. 1850. Group coming through high. Might cut through the left side of frame. 30 more. 1780. The group coming right over the sun. This one might come low. And the spruces now. 50 in that. So 1830. For some reason I find it easy to remember numbers when they sound like years a lot of the time. 20 going through the sun. 70. I missed a big flock behind. More back there. 1970. You know, some of these maths don't quite add up. It's because there's other little flocks that are going by, or that I'm failing. Oh, hey Drew. Hey Finch. Oh, these finches say hi to Finch as well. So, it goes both ways. How do the redpoll flocks look? Can you see them when they're coming through? 10 or so. Oh, definitely meta. We're so meta here. Finch was here, there'd be twice as many redpolls. There's a mixed flock of white-winged crossbills and finches coming through. The crossbills are flying high. They tend to always fly higher. You might be able to see the redpoll flocks coming through kind of everywhere, actually. It's a big one. That's a real big one. Wow. There's a rusty blackbird. Rusty blackbird in with the finches, too. That was like 180 redpolls in that one, and a flock of 20. Coming right over the spruces. So that would be 2,180 now, 2,180 since stream began. This could be a 5K day at this pace. Another low flock coming over the sun. $20, 200. Another 50 behind. 2250. Oh, might have just heard an evening grosbeak. And the plane, unfortunately. Hear white-winged crossbills calling. It's really nice with finches. I mean, so often you're just hearing them call first. Really helps you kind of pick the flock, especially on days when birds are really high. Nice low redpoll flock here. 30 or so birds. I may move to try and get a... Yeah, I'm going to see if we can get a good sunlight view on this. Let's take a little walk. Rather than backlit, might be able to get you a view that is not backlit. Great, glad that little flock came through. Yeah, earlier, hopefully it came through in the, or it'll come through in the VOD, but there's some pretty sweet flocks that came through low. Okay. Let's see how well this works. Here. Hopefully this will be just right when birds go by. Let's give this a whirl. That was a nice low flock. I think that was white wings. Yeah, those are white-winged crossbills. 20 white-winged crossbills. See what comes through and shoots the gap. Here comes a big redpoll flock coming through. Not even that big. 60 or so. How'd that one look, Drew? Crossbills honking. That funny little nasal call that they give that sounds pretty honky. Nasal honking. A lot of those. Chickadee just shot through pretty low as well. Oh, hear more white-winged crossbills coming. They're gonna come right overhead from behind. See if they come through. You got just going over the top of the trees there. Maybe this angle pick it up. It's hard to decide. Basically, you can face back the other way and get every bird that comes through, because there's kind of two flight lines, but they're backlit. Or this way, you only get half the birds in the camera, but they're lit more nicely. But give this a whirl. We'll get some more nice low flocks. There's some distant pine grosbeaks. They won't be visible in the camera here, but 6 of them. First group of the day, which is good. I was worried they'd stop coming through. Been quite sad. So over 3,000 redpolls now for the morning already, which is good. It's already the 3rd best morning of the week. Looks like it should keep going. Another flock of 4 more pines going by inland. It's pretty cool. I haven't seen pine grosbeaks kind of in active movement much before. I've seen it up in Quebec at Tadoussac couple days, but they're often moving pretty low. Here along the shore so far, at least in Minnesota, they're moving high overhead, and they're coming through higher than pretty much any other species, the finch in general. Some are low, but they're generally, 200-300 feet up, and they just have this amazing floaty flight. Just kind of these big bounding wing beats, really undulating, and just kind of float through the air. It's pretty nice. Hopefully they're heading to a crabapple near you, wherever you may be this fall and winter, but we shall see. It seems like we're in another one of these lulls. The bursty redpoll flights. I know folks weren't here before. It's been really interesting seeing the bursty nature of redpoll movements. It's been different from all the other finches, really, where they're coming along and there'll be 2 or 3 minutes where there's just flock after flock after flock, and then a lull period of 5, 10 or more, and then you'll get another burst of flocks. So it seems like whatever unknown mechanism they're using to kind of move and group up, it creates this burstiness that's different from all the others. A little redpoll flock going over might be visible up near the top. It's kind of that cross-hatched clouds up near the top moving through. Here's a low flock that'll be coming through as well. Shooting through the trees over the road. A small one, 20 or so. Maybe a car coming by. It's going to be loud for a moment. A lot of redpolls might come through in a second. That, and then, redpolls are coming over from the right side of the road now against the white clouds. It's a nice bigger flock twinkling in the sunlight. 70 in that group. Super low flock right now. That one should have been nice. About 26:40 now since the stream started. It's nice have a ticker for how long it's been. Last 34 minutes. 2,600 redpolls. Not bad. One of the things that's really interesting too is up in, or to me at least, is up in Quebec, again at Tadoussac, kind of on the north shore of the St. Lawrence River, which is probably the most similar geographic setup for a lot of these northern moving birds, winter finches and northern raptors and such. Oh, here's a flock of white-winged crossbills coming through, just over the right side of the road now, right through frame. 15 white wings. 130 white wings too since the start of the stream. In Tadoussac for the last week, they've had most days over 10,000 redpolls in a single day. So that has been a pretty interesting thing in that there they've had probably 50 to 70,000 redpolls in the last week. And here, up big redpoll flock from the left. It's not going to come out from behind the pines, about 60 more. Here's a flock coming through. Come right over the right side of the road against the white clouds. There are a bunch of white wings calling as well, and crossbills. Siskins calling in that flock as well. A bunch of redpolls too. 5 more white wings coming right over. Probably heard those. 20 crossbills, at least 3 siskins, 130 more redpolls. 2850 redpolls now. What was I saying? Tadoussac. Yeah, so they've been having tens of thousands of redpolls, which is interesting that there's also redpolls moving here in Minnesota, because at least traditionally it seems as though when there's a lot of redpolls moving in Quebec, there aren't that many here. You might be able to see an eagle right now. Yeah, coming up the right side of the left side spruces. Nice young bald eagle. Just hanging there in the wind. It's coming up off Lake Superior. A nice updraft for it. But normally when there's a bunch in Quebec, there aren't any in Minnesota, and vice versa, in past big flight years. But the fact that we're getting flights in both places simultaneously, so not the exact same birds, is interesting. So it'll be really intriguing to see how this year's winter finch is going. Eagles soaring right in front now, under the wispy clouds, top center. So looks like that might have been our little burst there, a minute or two of activity. Now back in a lull. It's been really interesting too how a lot of these finches flock together when moving, that I haven't experienced as much when just seeing them on the ground or having much smaller groups. But the little redpoll flock going over. Here there's all sorts of weird flocks mixing together all the time. White-winged crossbills and redpolls especially seem to like to fly together, which is really confusing sometimes when they're both calling, or when there's just a couple white wings calling in a big flock of redpolls, and you kind of look at it and it's a little confusing to figure out what you're looking at sometimes. Eyes are saying one thing, ears saying another. But there's been some interesting other things. Siskins really seem to like flocking with rusty blackbirds, which was a really interesting thing in October, a few weeks ago. Purple finches like to fly with robins a fair amount, it seems. So you get these big mixed robin, waxwing, purple finch flocks. Had some evening grosbeaks flying in the middle of a cedar waxwing flock yesterday, like a tight ball of waxwings, and right in the middle a pair of evenings, which was a little bit strange. But there's some weird things. Oh, yellow-rumped warbler. Nice, myrtle warbler. It's been a while. Oh, pine grosbeak. You might be able to see this one coming through just behind the right tall pine, the spruce. There was one pine grosbeak with 5 redpolls that came through there. Not sure if that one came on or not. But a little bit more grosbeak action. Oh, some redpolls coming right over. They might come through. This is good. This should be going for another hour or two potentially. Yeah, not sure who else is watching now, but if you know anybody else that wants to see some redpolls, maybe get a little bit of hope for your local birches or something, feel free to share this out. See what comes through. Here's some more white-winged crossbills coming. At least 5 more white-winged crossbills. Oh, another little redpoll flock. We might be getting into another burst period here. Redpoll should come through top left of frame, heading away. Just about 10 or 15. Oh, here we go. Little redpoll flock coming through it from the right. Beautiful. About 60 in that group, 50 or 60. So it's right below 3,000 since the start of stream. 3,040 nights. Not too far below 100 a minute. Not a bad rate. Better than I usually do with redpolls, at least. Let's see what we got. Okay, Drew, you count for me. You can tally it up. One of the things that's actually been pretty fun. We could do this. When a few of us have been here birding in the mornings, when a big flock has gone over, we'll all do our own estimates and then kind of count down 3, 2, 1, and then everybody at the exact same time say what your estimate is. And it's been a really interesting thing because, all of us, every time we're out birding, every day are doing some form of estimation. It's a few redpolls going through. It's about 10. But often it's just one person kind of doing it solo or silently, and it's just really interesting to have a bunch of people doing it and seeing how close or how far apart the different guesses are for different things as well. I mean, you get like a really, redpolls are, to me at least, a more challenging one. Oh, here's a big white-winged crossbill flock coming. What we hear him calling. "27 white wings in that flock." Went behind camera. Yeah, so just having a bunch of people kind of do a 3, 2, 1 and then count at the same time. But yeah, next flock that comes through, I'll ask you all how many you think it is and put it in chat. And we can probably even count it in the video. Have someone go back to the VOD and count frame by frame. They can have a source of truth. Because that to me is one of the interesting things about counting so much of this too. You're just doing what you can to get a good estimate. Oh, we got a nice, beautiful. It's a dark morph rough leg that it's in frame right now. It's kiting over the right side of the road. It just flew in and banked. It's just hanging there. Yeah, this is when I need to get a good setup to show you stuff through optics. Hopefully it'll come closer this way, but you should be able to see it. It's kind of against the really puffy white clouds. A little bit right of center. Just literally hanging there, motionless in the headwind. There's a little field over there. Must be hunting. Big flock of redpolls might come through left side of frame. Yeah. That one didn't go right through the middle, so I don't think it's a good one to count on. Maybe 70 or so in that. Oh, another 50 going through behind. More siskins in this one. Awesome. Glad you can see the roughie. Hopefully it'll come close. It's actually been really interesting. This has been surprisingly, the traditional hawk watch spot is up on the ridge, Hawk Ridge, above Duluth, which is a little ways from here. But right here on the lake, there's actually been some really nice days of raptor movement. Had multiple days with over 50 rough legs right here along the shore, a bunch of goldens, a few goshawks. And the rough legs seem to mind the lake a lot less. Like red tails will come right to the edge and then just move along the edge of the lake but stay over land. the roughlegs will just come here, sometimes hunt like this one does, and then just book it out over the lake, and cut across to Wisconsin. Much less water averse, it seems, than some of the other raptors here. A few more white wings coming behind. A mixed flock. Probably not going to go through frame, but three white wings and 5 more redpolls. This might end up being the best white-winged day. There's a bunch more calling. Might be getting some white wings are going through top center right now with some redpolls. So there's 8 white wings and another 10 redpolls in that group. But yeah, I think this might be the best white wing crossbill day of the fall so far here. For those who have been checking out winter finches so far, you may have seen the mega flight that Tadoussac in Quebec had of white-winged crossbills about 2 weeks ago now, I think. I forget the exact number, but it was something just totally absurd. Like 35,000 white-winged crossbills or something in a day. It's pretty amazing. But that place is ridiculous. Seems like we're still in the lull right now. It should be due for another pulse soon. Yeah, with the kind of pulse and lull nature of the redpoll flights, you never know when kind of a pulse drops off, if it's the last one of the day or not. The lull could continue for forever, or could not. So we shall see. Oh, great! I didn't realize there's a house here, and they just set up bird feeders. They haven't had bird feeders up all fall. That could be good. Well, most of the fun stuff is through. One of the things that's been pretty interesting to me, at least, is as someone coming from the eastern part of the U.S. and being here in Minnesota, northern Minnesota, for the fall. Just the interesting. It's mostly very eastern birds, eastern North American birds, and kind of the same as eastern Canada, northeastern U.S. Feels pretty similar bird-wise in a lot of ways for the species that are there. But there are some things that are very western, that are just surprising to me, or central U.S. at least, which is where we are here. But Harris's sparrow is one that's been really interesting, just having that be kind of a mega coveted bird in the Northeast. And here they're just like an uncommon, but not that uncommon, passage migrant. Some low white wings that might come right through. Yeah, two nice white wings. It's male and female. Yeah, so having like Harris's sparrow, western meadowlarks are not crazy rare here. They're rarer than Harris's sparrows, but had a couple this fall. Swainson's hawks moving through, not an uncommon thing for the kind of mid to late September peak. So a little bit of that western influence that makes you realize you're 1,000 miles farther west. What was that? Low, small redpoll flock. How's the audio, Drew? Is it coming through pretty clear for you? Is there much wind or wave noise? Chickadees. It seems like the chickadee migration has pretty much fully stopped here. But maybe we'll get a boreal. We did have a black-backed, awesome, thanks Drew. I had a black-backed woodpecker yesterday, which this is kind of a famous zone for. Oh, cool! That's great. The birds can come through occasionally. Yeah, it'd be nice to have like a mic pointed up for this almost, and then a mic pointed back. But that's good. Yeah, so this area as well as for winter finches. Oh, hey, Colin, how's it going? Yeah, for winter finches, this is obviously an area where there's a lot of happening. But one of the other really cool things is kind of the northern woodpeckers moving through. So black-backed and three-toed woodpeckers come through here in numbers some years, but huge variation year to year. I think it was 2016 or 2017 or something. They had I think it was over 300 black-backed woodpeckers migrate, literally in the view we're looking at right here. So right behind the rightmost spruce you can see here, there's a little snag that is the black-backed woodpecker snag. And for some reason, every black-backed woodpecker that flies through here, the second they see that snag, they're like magnetically attracted to it and just turn from whatever flight line they're on and fly as fast as they can right to that snag, land on it, call a couple times, and then take off again, sometimes within like a second or two. But they just need to land on that snag. Really curious what's going on with that. But the black-backed woodpecker snag right here, the flight line we're looking at has had hundreds and hundreds of blackbacks and dozens of three-toads move past it. And I think they had over 30 blackbacks in a day that season as well, which sounds amazing. But unfortunately, this fall is not one of those falls. We've had 3 blackbacks all fall, which is still super cool to have that bird kind of in active movement. We had one yesterday. Also get some boreal chickadee movement here too. Again, variable year to year, but this exact little gap we're looking at right here is kind of the main gap for things to jump across, like we've seen the black-capped chickadees doing. Had a boreal chickadee do that exact jump, I think 5 or 6 days ago now. But would definitely be nice to have more of those. What winter finches are you all seeing in New York so far? There are a lot of siskins and purples around at all, or any redpolls yet? Ooh, nice little redpoll flock. 30. Here's some white wings faintly coming in. They're gonna be far. Here, a lot of the early finches have cleared out. I mean, that's one of the interesting. Oh, great! First redpolls along Lake Ontario. Oh, purple finch coming through. First one of the day. That one might be picked up. I'm not sure. Yeah, here there's almost nothing on the ground, like really of any birds right now. It's kind of striking. Like after this morning flight is done, you go out and it's hard to find anything really. So everything just seems to be blasting through. And purple finches, and there's a few more purples, 2 more white wings. Purples blasted through in the middle of October, siskins in the 3rd week of October, and now there's just a handful of each. You know, it's all redpolls, but like after here, you go out and you try and find redpolls in birches or in fields or anything. I haven't found a single group of redpolls on the ground, which is crazy. I've had now close to 25,000 fly overhead right here since last Friday, and have not had a single flock on the ground. So they're going somewhere. Be curious to see where. And hopefully the pine grosbeaks have been moving a little bit, so maybe that's a good sign. But does not look like a bohemian year. Just a couple of those. This lull's been a while now, like 10, 15 minutes without much. The tap may have been turned off a little bit. Give it a little bit longer. Distant flock of 15 white wings. It's always interesting just spending a bunch of time in kind of a single place over a season and getting a sense of how birds use it. Like right here, kind of on a little point of land, and there's kind of three strategies that birds use. They're moving along the north side of Lake Superior, heading southwest. It's kind of a northeast-southwest coastline, and they encounter this little bump. Some birds follow the very edge of the shoreline, follow the bump right out to the tip, and they get to the tip of the point, and they don't really know what to do and turn back inland. Some just jump straight off from the point, so some of the raptors will do that. Golden eagles, goshawks, roughlegs will do that. Some finches will. Most of the songbirds seem to turn back inland and then either cut across the bay, which is the flight line we're looking at right now. So this is like halfway down the point, birds that see land, and rather than detouring around further, they just jump across the bay, so they go across a little bit of water. And then there's birds that won't cross water at all, and they're the ones on the very distant tree line that we can see, like the low one below the blue sky in the back. That area has a flight line that is just right along kind of the main shoreline, and there's a bunch of things that just won't cross water at all, or that are just following the shoreline and don't come out on the point at all. So it's kind of interesting. So right now what we're capturing and looking at here is basically one of the three flight lines, and so that's why I'm up some white wings coming through the upper left corner. I'm calling. You can probably hear those. 5 white wings. And they actually landed probably in camera. Another flock coming through. Get them up there. So they're up at the top of this, these spruces right here. Not sure if they'll do anything interesting. But yeah, so we're getting, there's probably half the birds or so are using this flight line today. But every time that I'm looking up and scanning inland or out towards the tip, there's other finch flocks moving through. Looks like the white wings bailed out the back. Yeah, the redpoll flocks are definitely getting smaller, and seems like the flight might be slowing down a little bit. Not enough clouds, I guess, but we shall see. It's actually been really interesting too. One of the other birders around here was out biking the other night at night and heard redpolls moving over at night, which is pretty cool. And that's not something that I at least have ever encountered or heard much about before. So curious how often that happens. And then I'll get here at dawn and put the scope way out on the lake, like right over the water. And multiple mornings have had redpoll flocks, big redpoll flocks, moving like half a mile out at very first light, that were definitely in flight overnight. So it's interesting. I at least think of finches as moving a lot in the daytime. But there's, of course, some nocturnal movement, but makes you wonder how widespread it is, and how often it's happening. So much we don't know. Well, it might give it another minute or two, and if nothing else kind of picks up, we may shut it down for the day. So it goes in my last morning here. Every redpoll has got to count. hoping for a bit of raptors later as well. It's been interesting. There's been really good winds for raptors this week, but not that many birds. So it seems like finally reached the stage of the migration where the birds that needed to move have kind of pushed through, and now until there's snow and worse conditions north, stuff doesn't really need to move anymore. Even if there's nice stuff. But we'll see. Is not going to have a cold snap before leaving here. It's supposed to be 55 or something today. I hear those crossbills. Love that noise. Nice. Yeah, hopefully some of those white-winged crossbill calls are coming through. Yeah, it's supposed to be in the 50s today and then in the 60s tomorrow, which is just crazy for November and anywhere in the north. Oh, a few redpolls coming through, especially somewhere as far north and brutally cold as it usually is up here. So it'd be interesting. Could bring some strange birds. There's definitely some weird stuff going around. Maybe the stellar sea eagle will fly by. It's pretty cool. I don't know, for those of you who have not followed the story of this bird, apparently the same stellar sea eagle has been making cameos around the North American continent for the last year and a half, I think it is. Massive, amazing bird, one of the best birds in the world, from Siberia, eastern Russia. Was photographed first, I think it was along the Denali Highway in Alaska in spring, either of 2020 or 2021, I think it was. Can't fully remember. No, it had to have been 2020. It was photographed last year in Alaska, then nothing for a long time. Then this spring, there was a stellar sea eagle photographed in Texas, of all places, at just some random body of water. Appeared to be the same bird. Then, and that was based on wing pattern in flight, if I remember correctly. Then it was never seen again in Texas. Then it popped up in New Brunswick. I think that was August, if I remember correctly. July, August, something like that. Kind of bopped around. People saw it there for a while, dropped off the radar again, and now, as of yesterday or 2 days ago, it's in Nova Scotia, and hanging out there. So at some point, it's got to go somewhere else. I think every birder with a pulse in, especially the eastern U.S., but probably all the U.S., is hoping that next place it makes the cameos by them. Sure would be cool to have that pass by here. Cool. Well, I think in looking around, I just did a scan, and there are not many birds moving anymore. So it seems like that that last pulse was the last big one. So let's see what we got going on there, and yeah, thanks everybody for tuning in. I don't think I'll have any more redpoll streams unless there's a big movement of them in New York at some point. Oh, hear the pine grove speak. Three-noted finchy call. Hopefully that came through. If it did, that'd be a perfect end cap to this. Yeah, thanks everybody for joining. More than 3,000 redpolls flew by while we were live here, and see what's next. Hope some of them come to a birding spot near you. See y'all later. Have a good weekend.